Hi. This video we're going to talk about particle wave duality, the double slit experiment, and the theory that our consciousness may have an effect on the matter around us. So when I started studying this, like the mystery teachings and alchemy and all those things, I went in with a skeptical scientific mind and went in looking for astronomy and philosophy, and just the more I found out, the more I started looking into the more theoretical, less scientific things like astrology and whatnot. But with this is an experiment in quantum physics that can really tie to a lot of really interesting things when it comes to the mind and consciousness. So I made simple diagrams that I'll put up, and I'm also going to include a few source videos in the description. They are more thorough, more descriptive explanations and visualizations to explain this kind of complex experiment. But I have something simple set up, and we'll start going into that right now. So to help me illustrate this experiment, I have this little robot, and this little robot shoots out paintballs. We're using paintballs to stand in for electrons or photons or particles that this experiment takes place with. So if we have one wall with one slit in it and a wall behind it, and we continuously shoot paintballs at this wall, we expect it to go through the slit and eventually make a straight line on the back wall. Makes sense. And then if we have two slits in the wall, we expect it to do the similar thing and just kind of replicate the two slits and end up with that on the back wall. And what gets interesting is when you put a wave through that, so let's say this is spray paint going through. We have, when a wave hits a slit, it recreates a new wave past that. And when a wave hits two slits or more, it creates what's called an interference pattern. And so when this wave, the highs and the lows meet the highs and the lows, the high points, when they meet the other high points, create a compound high, the lows create a compound low, and so what that creates is a more significant pattern. And on the back wall we see this dissipations with lines fading out horizontally. And where this ties in is scientists found that when they would do this experiment and shoot one electron or paintball at a time and didn't observe it, it was in an isolated way where nothing could be seen, and it happened so fast that it wasn't being monitored how. But if they shot one paintball at a time, it would eventually create the same pattern as a wave interference, which shouldn't make sense. A wave interference would only happen with waves. And so if you're shooting one paintball at a time, how would it create a painting without knowing where the other paintballs either are going to land or have landed before it? So scientists tried to document this. They tried to observe the experiment. They tried to figure out how a single particle could know where its place should be in relation to the other particles that have come and will come before and after it. And so they set up cameras, they set up mirrors to try to observe it, and every single time that any effort was made to watch this process, the wave behavior collapsed, the wave behavior stopped, and it went back to behaving like just paintballs and making two stripes behind the back wall. So this has been done and repeated and repeated, and it still comes up the same things. They'll set up mirrors that try to hit cameras to try to trick the electrons into marking some sort of behavior, but the closest thing that they can find to evidence is that a particle, when it is not observed, gets released as a particle or a paintball, and then somehow integrates every single position that it could be, aka turns into a wave for a minute, goes through the two slits, and then somehow something happens between there and it interacts with itself and knows where each particle should end up. And that's one really like mind-bending thing. But on top of that, the fact that our our awareness, our looking at it, our attempts of observing it makes this behavior stop completely. And so they call that phase of uncertainty of position superposition. So the particle exists in every single position in superposition, and then somehow communicates with every position and figures out where it belongs if it was a wave. And the fact that we break that down just by observing it means that our conscious observance of it makes an effect and has an immeasurable change to the superposition of that electron photon. That exact experience is altered just by us looking at it, observing it. So on top of this just being like a really like mind-bending, cool little introduction to quantum mathematics and how it doesn't really apply to what we consider to be reality and math and science, there's sort of a really cool doorway that opens when we consider that our observing of this action changes the outcome, because that goes into all of the thoughts of like fake it till you make it, or like manifest your reality and chase your dreams, imagine your dreams, blah blah. And it's the suggestion that maybe our conscious observing of behavior and of the superposition of realities that could be, if we just pay consciousness to the several outcomes that could be and how we can select one of the many, it plays into a lot of the philosophies and a lot of the thoughts that we are going to discuss in further videos. So on top of that, it also suggests when you are able to look at the particle breaking down into the wave and then somehow corresponding with itself and then figuring out where it should be, it's a nice sort of metaphor to compare ourselves with what opportunities are out there and what we can do to figure out where we should end up in the final thing. Cheesy, but there's going to be a lot of cheese in this stuff. So yeah, hopefully those little sheets are helpful. I'll include those as well as a few helpful links. And yeah, this is weird. Cool. Bye.